I saw how these sort of anti-racist changes were going through the industry, and but the ground had kind of been laid by work like the 1619 Project. And just as briefly as you can, I know you got to go soon, but we've got to get into this story, because the way that the response to it, I remember it was heavily criticized, but the way that the Times handled it, I thought was also very interesting.
Yeah, so the 1619 Project came out with this big issue of this New York Times magazine. It was the whole issue dedicated to this one idea that America was founded in 1619 when the first slaves were brought to the colonies, not 1776 when independence was declared. So what they're saying there is pretty clear. They're reframing. They actually use these terms to say they want to reframe American history in terms of slavery rather than liberty. And I actually I take the point. Like, yeah, okay, that I get what you're trying to say there, and you want to say we have underemphasized the impact of slavery on American society and politics, and it's time we stop doing that, and that's fine. I mean, is that a newspaper's job? I'm not sure. It feels more like history to me, but whatever. What went wrong with the 1619 Project is that in order to make this gigantic maximalist claim that America was born in slavery, and therefore all the structures and all the infrastructure and all the cultural values that drive America as we know it today are remnants of slavery, of slavocracy, to make that gargantuan claim, you've got to make some gargantuan, you got to posit some gargantuan facts. And that's where all these historians got really upset, because those facts were not true. And that included facts that the New York Times had checked with their own fact checkers. And that was including a very prominent historian of African American history from Northwest University, who told them that one of their key facts, that the American Revolutionary War was fought to protect slavery, is just flat out false. And they published that claim anyway. And that's where you think, hold on a second, like, you're the New York Times. The New York Times is saying our credibility rests on our ability to check on this stuff and to go to the experts. And that's what they did. And the experts said this is not true, and they published it anyways, because it wasn't, and this is again narrative building, it wasn't about the facts, it was about the conclusions that they wanted to draw. This is Halberstam and Sheehan all over again. They came to it with a predetermined conclusion. It wasn't about following the facts to some conclusion. It was about taking the preconceived, prefabricated conclusion and then sort of getting the facts in line to make sure that they supported that conclusion the way they wanted to. And that to me is the big issue here. So when you're saying truth is not what we all kind of do our very best to approximate or to find together in a collaborative way. For the New York Times, they're saying in that moment, truth is what serves power. Truth is what serves the power that we are trying to seize from the people that we think are morally wrong. And that's an extremely dangerous idea, because it doesn't take very long for your enemies on the other side to realize, oh, wait a second, truth is now a weapon. Okay, I'm going to pick up that weapon as well. I'm going to stab you back. And this is where we are today in American society. Truth is now a weapon. Truth is wielded in order to hurt the other side. We're no longer at that point where we say, well, you know what? The New York Times had a point there, and they made some good arguments, and some of the critics have responded like that. I forget the guy's name, but I think it was Phil Magnus and the American Enterprise Institute. He was a very harsh critic of Nicole Hannah-Jones and the project. But you'll see him on Twitter often saying, like, actually, these few claims can really be substantiated by historians. And even though they kind of sound radical, like, we should hear them out because they're interesting. That is the spirit of, I think, cooperation, collaborative approach to truth that the New York Times rejected with the 1619 Project. That's why I find it so damaging, not because they wanted to think about slavery in a different way, which I think is great. It's something, it's like, okay, challenge our assumptions. That's what you're here for. But they did it by subverting our understanding of truth. And just as you were pointing out, Clifton, is that when the response came, Nicole Hannah-Jones, her response was combat. Her response was just go to the ground, go to war with anyone who dared to challenge her. She would ridicule people on Twitter, call names, block people. It was just horrible. And the New York Times tried to shut down that debate as well, and they also fudged the facts about how that project rolled out. They made claims that were really not true about the project, and they didn't do the honest thing of saying, you know what, let's listen to the historians here. Let's listen to the dozens of academics who've come out saying, from across the political spectrum, coming out saying this is unsupportable, and let's make this right, and let's continue to have the conversation that we were having, but let's do it the right way. They didn't do that. They did the opposite. They did the thing that is rooted in power, institutional power, and they did it in order to win that argument. And they kind of did win the argument. I think maybe for now, I think people are kind of on the other side rallied against it. A lot of prominent thinkers and historians did come out and say this is just utter bollocks. But yeah, it was quite a shocking episode, I think, even for the Times.
His name is Ashley Rinsberg. The book is called The Gray Lady Winks. I will put your, I know you got to go. I will leave your Twitter handle in the show notes. Is there anything else you want to plug before you get out of here?
No, I don't think so. But thank you for this great talk. And I think this is the conversation, that I love to have about media. And I think it's the conversation we're kind of all having about truth and journalism, news and media. And I think we have a lot to do and a farther to go on this conversation. It's not over anytime soon. I think it's a good it's good that we've begun to have it, because for a long time we weren't having it.